The competition is whittling down. The amount of playoff eligible teams are coming down. There's eventually going to be only 4 left, and we're only a few weeks away from the end of the college football season. But the fun is just beginning. There are still many more great games to be played. And we have a pretty big slate here for Week 11. Man, it feels like yesterday Georgia played Clemson to open up the season, but we're already at Week 11. Let's see. How did people do last week? How many of my top 10 teams lost? 2. Michigan State and Wake Forest both lost. Wake Forest, man, sorry to see y'all go. I liked Wake Forest. Sam Hartman's a great quarterback, but just didn't have enough against North Carolina, so they're out of the top 10. Michigan State I had at 2. I moved them down to 7, one spot above Michigan. Basically, from Cincinnati to Michigan, you can pretty much rank these teams in any order. It doesn't really matter. They're going to play each other out. I saw everyone up in arms that Michigan was ahead of Michigan State in the college football rankings. While that is stupid and there's no reason Michigan should be ahead of Michigan State, it really doesn't matter because both teams still have to play Ohio State and they still have to play Penn State. So the situation will play itself out. It really doesn't matter where they're ranked right now. You could flip them and it'd be fine. Just don't worry about that. New to the top 10 is a returning foe, a team that had been ranked in the top 10 to start the season, got all the way up to 5 in the rankings, but had 2 losses in a row. But ever since those 2 losses, they've beaten the number 1 team in the country. They just beat Auburn last week, and they're looking hot, and they technically have a slight chance to make the playoff, but I don't have them on my list yet. It's Texas A&M. It was between Texas A&M and Oklahoma State. It was really close between both of those teams. Both those teams are really good. I like what I see out of A&M and Oklahoma State. I just thought A&M had some better wins, so I put A&M at 10, despite having 2 losses when Oklahoma State only has 1. I thought A&M deserved it a little bit more, but Oklahoma State is next in line for the top 10. Still have Cincinnati at 2. Cincinnati moved up to 2. I had them at 3 last week. Man, close win over Tulsa, but They won. I don't think people should panic about Cincinnati not getting in the playoff. I think they will make the playoff. Think about this. They're ranked 5th right now, and one of Georgia and Alabama has to lose. Or Alabama. I don't think Alabama's beating Georgia, even if they make the SEC championship. There's still a chance A&M could make it if Auburn. I don't know. But Alabama's probably going to lose. Oregon still could lose to Utah. So, and even if, Ohio State wins out, Oregon wins out, Georgia wins out, there are teams ahead of them that are going to lose. Cincinnati, as long as they don't lose themselves, I think they'll make it. I think Cincinnati will make it. Oregon had a 10-point win over Washington. Now, most people would think of that as a struggle win because, they lost to Montana. They're a horrible team. It was a big rivalry game. Washington and Oregon's a big rivalry game. And that game was in a monsoon. It was pouring that entire game. I'll give Oregon a pass for the game. It wasn't even that bad of a win. Ohio State, embarrassing 9-point win over Nebraska. You should be able to blow out Nebraska. Oklahoma, they did not play last week. But I did move them 1 spot ahead of Alabama, who had an embarrassing 6-point win over LSU. Had 6 rushing yards. 6 rushing yards against a bad LSU team. This is the worst LSU team. Sorry, last year. LSU is not what they used to be. LSU is not a good team. And here's a thing I want to bring up. This is sort of the dynamic to round out the season. Ranked teams in the top 10 with a legitimate shot at making the playoffs against an unranked team with nothing to lose. LSU, so Alabama, number 2 ranked team in the country. They got everything to lose going in against LSU. You win, great, you're supposed to beat LSU. You lose, and everyone laughs and so So Alabama's out here with everything to lose. LSU's out here rolling out fake punts. Just so the fact that the unranked team has just nothing to lose, they're going out there and playing their ass off, and that's how you see a lot of upsets here late in the season. That's what happened with North Carolina. North Carolina won. Same thing with Purdue and Michigan State. Purdue pulled off that big upset. Can they do it again this week against Ohio State? We'll find out. Our two featured games, Oklahoma and Baylor. Every game for Oklahoma is an elimination game. If they lose, they're done. Sorry, they're ranked 8 right now. There are so many one-loss teams ahead of them to where even if Oklahoma goes undefeated, the committee's not even going to bat twice. I mean, people are tired of the song and dance routine from Oklahoma. And then we have Texas A&M and Ole Miss. This is an elimination games in terms of winning the SEC West. Obviously, if Alabama wins out, they win the SEC West. But if they lose to Auburn, it'd be the next team in line. And right now, the next team in line is Texas A&M, and they would hold the tiebreaker over Alabama since they beat them. So it's going to be tough to see who comes out of this. The loser of this A&M Ole Miss game is essentially eliminated from the SEC West conversation. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening in that game. I'm excited for that one. There are other games on the left side of the board that probably could be considered featured games. There are some really, really good games this week, and I'm excited to watch them. We'll start with a game on Thursday night, North Carolina and Pitt. Pitt lost. Who did they lose? Pitt lost to someone last week. I'm pretty sure. I know they lost to Miami the other week, and that was a pretty bad, embarrassing loss. But I'm pretty sure they beat Duke 54-29. But UNC's coming off a really good win over Wake Forest. I think they're going to roll with this momentum into this Thursday night game. Weird Thursday night game, short practices. I like the momentum UNC has, short turnaround. I feel like anything can happen in this game. I'm going to take North Carolina. Cincinnati. Okay, Cincinnati, I'm a little bit frustrated with y'all because, okay, they started the season blowing out teams, 49-14, 42-7, 52-3, 56-21. Their last 3 games against Navy, Tulane, and Tulsa, 27-20, 31-12, and 28-20. Those 3 teams I just mentioned have a combined 6 wins. Those 3 teams are terrible, and you're barely beating them. This is a road game on a Friday, far travel from Cincinnati, Ohio to Southern Florida. It's a long travel on a Friday night on the road. I'm worried for Cincinnati in this one. I know South Florida's a 2-7 team, but I'm predicting another Cincinnati struggle win. Like I said, though, that Notre Dame win is really looking good. The more Notre Dame wins, the better that win looks, and I think that win could single-handedly carry them into the playoffs, but they just have to keep winning. Even if it's a close win, I don't think they really have anything to worry about. They're favored by 23.5. I'd honestly take Southern Florida to cover in this one. But I do think Cincinnati should be able to come away with a win. New Mexico State and Alabama. Alabama is favored by 51.5. If New Mexico State wins, comment what punishment you want me to do if New Mexico State wins. You name it, I'll do it. They're not going to win. Give me Alabama. Penn State and Michigan. Remember what I just said about the ranked team with everything to lose and the unranked team with nothing to lose? At home for Penn State in front of hundreds of thousands of people, Penn State will get up for this game. I know Penn State has been very unimpressive the last few weeks. What have they done? They lost to Iowa and Illinois and Ohio State. They lost 3 games in a row, but they just got on track last week with a 31-14 win on the road against Maryland. I think that Penn State's going to get up for this game. And I expect Penn State to give it their all. And I think this is going to be a big win for Penn State. I think they're going to come out and slap Michigan around. I really think so. Michigan, they beat Indiana last week. Whoopity-doo. Everyone's been beating Michigan. Everyone's been beating Indiana. They're a bad team. I like Penn State in this game. I mean, I'm telling you, the unranked team. This isn't no bad LSU team on the road in Tuscaloosa. This is a pretty good Penn State team at home in Happy Valley in front of 106,000 people. Michigan's going to have a hard time. Give me Penn State. Auburn and Mississippi State. Let's see. Auburn. Let's see. For Penn State, Michigan State. Michigan's favored by 1.5. That's pretty much a coin flip. Auburn is favored by 5.5 against Mississippi State. It should be a competitive game. Mississippi State should not have been ranked in the first playoff poll, and they lost to Arkansas. Auburn, embarrassing loss to Texas A&M. They only scored 3 points. Yikes. I do think that Auburn is the better team, though, and they should be able to win at home. Northwestern and Wisconsin. Give me Wisconsin big. Northwestern's just not that great. I'll take Wisconsin. Utah and Arizona. Shout out to Arizona for getting their first win last week, 10-3 against Cal. Cal also lost to UC San Diego in their first basketball game. Cal is just an embarrassment in all athletic fields. But good for you, Arizona. Good on you for winning a game. Y'all were leading for clown. I was gonna dub a clown of the year at the end of the year, and Arizona State, in all likelihood, was gonna win it. But maybe not anymore. And also UNLV won their first game, which means every single FBS team has at least one win. Congrats on you, Arizona. Utah, though, is looking really good. I like what I see out of Utah. They're running with some momentum right now, and they got a game against Oregon coming up. Maybe they could spring an upset. Who knows? Utah's favored by 24. It'll be close enough if they'll cover or not, but they'll definitely win the game. Georgia and Tennessee. Now, if you look at all the teams in the top 10, all of them have had a multitude of struggle wins. Cincinnati, like I had said, Oregon struggled against Cal and Arizona, and who else did they struggle against? Stanford, they lost. Ohio State barely beat Nebraska. Oklahoma barely beat Kansas. Alabama barely beat. All these teams have struggle wins. The only team that does not really have a struggle win is Georgia. Georgia has blown out everyone this year. The only game I guess you could deem a struggle win would be their 10-3 game against Clemson, because Clemson doesn't look that good anymore. But still, that was a top 5 matchup at the time. You can't really call that a struggle win. I think they're due for one. They're due for a scare. I think they're due for a scare. And I think it comes to the hands of a red-hot Tennessee on the road in Knoxville. I think that Tennessee's going to feed off their crowd, and I think they make this game dangerously close. I think this is the best offense Georgia will have played all year. Not defensively. Defensively, Tennessee is not very good at all. But this will definitely be the best offense Georgia has played all year, in my opinion. Maybe you can argue Auburn, but I think Tennessee's gonna, and I think their crowd will help their defense. I think Tennessee is gonna hang around in this game and make it dangerously close. I do think Georgia will be able to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was an upset. Tennessee will hang around in this one, make it close, but Georgia will win. Purdue and Ohio State. Now, Purdue has 3 straight wins against top 5 teams as an unranked team. Now they're not an unranked team. They're ranked 19th now. But they beat Ohio State back in 2018 when they were ranked number 2. They beat Iowa earlier this year when they were number 2. And they beat Michigan State last week when they were number 3. Do they have another top 5 upset in them? Maybe. They do have to go on the road to Columbus, which I don't like the fact that they're on the road. And they just came off a really high emotional win against Michigan State. Biggest win their program has seen probably since that 2018 win against Ohio State. I mean, field rusher, big, great win. Off a hangover, I just don't see them beating Ohio State. I mean, they're coming off that big win. I just don't think Purdue's going to have enough in them. Maybe they can win. Maybe they're just too red hot for anyone to beat. But I just think that the hangover is going to last a little bit too long. On the road, I don't like their chances. I'm going to take Ohio State. Iowa and Minnesota. So this game is pivotal for the Big Ten West. The standings in the Big Ten West are as follows. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, and Iowa are all 4-2 in conference. Wisconsin, I think, currently holds the tiebreakers, but this Minnesota-Iowa game, the loser is done in terms of who's going to the Big Ten Championship. Minnesota was leading last week until they lost to Illinois. How do you lose to Illinois? Man, I don't know how you lose to Illinois. Penn State, Minnesota, how did y'all lose to Illinois as ranked teams at home? Man, the world may never know. But I think Iowa's going to take this one. I mean, I know everyone's clowning on them because, they were ranked number 2 in the country. And, please have Iowa make the playoffs because everyone wanted to play them because people didn't think they were that good. It's still a pretty good team. I mean, they're still 7-2, and they're still ranked. And they still beat a bunch of good teams earlier in the year. I think they're going to beat Minnesota at home close, though. This will be a good game. Southern Miss and UTSA. Hey, UTSA is finally ranked. They got a big rivalry win over UTEP last week. And, I mean, I think they're going to continue to roll. I mean, UTSA should finish the year undefeated. Now, are they going to make the playoffs? No, they're not going to make the playoffs. But, I mean, there's a lot of pride finishing undefeated. That's hard to do, no matter who you play. So, I'll take them over Southern Miss. Michigan State and Maryland. Michigan State coming off of, obviously, the rough loss to Purdue. We'll see how they handle themselves bouncing back. I think they should be fine against Maryland. Maryland's not a very good team. Maryland is 5-4. Will they make a bowl? Maybe. I think Michigan State should be able to win this one pretty easily. Notre Dame and Virginia, ABC primetime. 8-1 Fighting Irish traveling to 6-3 Virginia. This is going to be a pretty good game. Armstrong, the quarterback for Virginia, he's impressed this year. They've got a really good running back. And that guy from Hawaii, I think. He's got a weird-ass last name. I think it's going to be close, but I think Notre Dame's going to win. I don't think Virginia's going to have enough at home. I mean, it'll be a good game. I'm excited to watch this one, but I just think Notre Dame's the better team, and they should be able to take care of business against Virginia. NC State and Wake Forest. I like NC State in this one. Wake is a 1.5-point favorite at home, but I don't know. They came off a rough loss against North Carolina. That was a rough, especially since they were winning by a lot in that game. It was 45-27. They gave up a 30-0 run. They gave up like 30 unanswered at one point in like the fourth quarter. That is a bad loss. I mean, that loss hurts. If you're Wake Forest, that loss hurts a lot. And now you got to turn around against a pretty big game because the ACC is guaranteed to go to a New Year's Six bowl. I think it's like the Peach Bowl or I don't know. The ACC usually get that. I think they have to have a team in the New Year's Six or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. But this game could decide who goes to a New Year's Six bowl. I just don't see Wake Forest getting up and energized after that crushing loss. I think NC State's going to come in and beat them. Give me the Wolfpack. Arkansas at LSU. Two decent teams. Arkansas favored by 2.5 on the road. I think they should be able to win. I don't think LSU is going to be good enough. Oklahoma State and TCU. TCU pulled off the big upset against Baylor last week. Gary Patterson, you win one for the Gipper. They did. I don't know why they fired Gary Patterson. That guy's been there forever, and he's led them to some pretty great seasons. Oklahoma State, I mean, TCU's not doing it back-to-back weeks. They're 3-5, or 4-5. They're not doing it back-to-back weeks. Oklahoma State should win. Oregon and Washington State. I'm telling you, I'm a little bit worried for Oregon in this game. Washington State, so they fired their coach after, what's it called? They fired their coach because he didn't want to get vaccinated. I don't want to get vaccinated. I don't want to help solve the pandemic. I'm going to be a baby and not get vaccinated. So, whatever, they fired their coach. Meanwhile, in the midst of firing their coach, Washington State has won 5 in a row. They're 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they've won 5 in a row after starting the year 1-3. They lost to Utah State, beat Portland State, lost to USC, lost to Utah. They have rattled off 5 wins in a row. Granted, not against the greatest teams in the world, Cal, Oregon State, Stanford. Oh, they lost to BYU. My bad. Sorry, they lost to BYU. Close game, though. But even after firing their coach, they went up and thumped Arizona State on the road. Washington State's looking like a good team. I feel like they're going to give Oregon a scare. This quarterback that Washington State has, he's thrown 17 touchdowns. I'm telling you, it looks like they're rallying around their new coach. I mean, they've looked better since they fired their coach. Maybe that tells you something about that coach, that Rolovich. What a clown he is. I'm telling you, Washington State's going to scare them. What's the spread in this game? Oregon minus 14. Take Washington State to cover. I don't think they'll win, though. It'll be close, though. It'll be really close, but I think Oregon's going to win. Nevada and San Diego State. San Diego State's a 3-point favorite at home. They're 8-1. Nevada's 7-2. I like Carson Strong, and Nevada's looked really good this year. I mean, they've beaten some really good teams. I think they're due for a big win here. I think they're going to get it against San Diego State on the road. Give me Nevada and Carson Strong. UCF at SMU. SMU should win. I mean, they got to keep winning to help to help Cincinnati. I mean, they don't really need to help Cincinnati. SMU will win. Miami and Florida State. Man, who remembers when this was a big game? This used to be a big game. Not so much anymore. Both these programs are in the toilet this year. Florida State, I mean, think about this. Florida State started 0-4. They started 0-4, and everyone, I said they might go winless. I'm like, Florida State, I mean, they might be hard-pressed to win any games this year. I mean, they had the loss to Notre Dame in overtime, lost to Jacksonville State on a Hail Mary, then proceeded to crab the bed against Wake and Louisville. But then they rattled off 3 straight wins against Syracuse, North Carolina. They beat for the second year in a row. UMass 59-3. 4 straight wins for Florida State. Lost to Clemson. That was a close game, though. They're still a tough team. So they found, I mean, they're 3-6, but I mean, where they were to start the year, I'd be happy with 3-6 if I'm a Florida State fan. And then Miami started off the year really badly too. I mean, they got killed by Alabama, but I mean, that's a different. That would happen. Barely beat App State. Got crushed by Michigan State. Lost to Virginia. Lost to North Carolina. They were sitting at what? 2-4, and then they beat NC State and Pitt in back-to-back weeks, and those were 2 really good teams. And they beat Georgia Tech last week. So this is a game for pride. Who's the best team in Florida? Because the Gators are they're in the dumps right now. God, fired Todd Grantham finally. Gators fans are dancing in the street because of that. Miami's a 2.5-point favorite on the road. As much as I think Florida State has the heart, they've shown a lot of heart. Florida State, I just don't think they're talented enough. I think Florida State, they're just the less talented team. I think Miami's going to sneak away with a close win, but this should be a good game. I'm excited to watch this one. UConn and Clemson, man. Remember when UConn lost 40-0 to Fresno State in the first week, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, they have to play Clemson." And this is when Clemson was a top 5 team. They're like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be a murder of holy proportions. This is gonna be terrible." UConn has 1 win, and it's against Yale. It's even though Clemson's not very good anymore. I mean, they're still a decent team. It's still going to be a murder of unholy proportions. Give me Clemson. Texas and Kansas. Texas was 4-1 going into that game against Oklahoma. They're 4-1 going into that game against Oklahoma. Right? Okay, 4-1. And they were dominating them at halftime. I mean, that game wasn't even close. Not even close. And then, they blow it. They collapse. It was horrible. Just a bad collapse for Texas. And then you're like, okay, they have to play. Then they had to play Oklahoma State. They were beating the brakes off Oklahoma State. Ended up choking that game. Lost in the fourth quarter. Baylor, they're beating Baylor at halftime. Got a big lead on Baylor. Too bad they lost it 31-24. They were up 7-3. On Iowa State at halftime, and then gave up 30 unanswered points in the second half. I do not know what the hell is wrong with Texas. They need to get their act together and fast, or they're going to start losing. I'm a recruit. I don't want to go to a team that's constantly blowing second half leads. How are you going to get Arch Manning? Texas needs to get their act together. Good thing they play the worst team college football has seen in a long time, the Kansas Jayhawks. They're just, hey, we almost beat Oklahoma. That's Kansas's claim to fame. Texas should be able to win. I'd hope so. Good thing Texas has 3 cupcakes left on their schedule. West Virginia and Kansas State they should be able to beat. Anyway, though, featured game time. A&M against Ole Miss. Now, A&M, they have looked... I told y'all at the start of the season, I said A&M is the team to beat in the SEC. I'm like, it's going to be them and Georgia in the SEC championship. And A&M was proven. I said they're going to beat Alabama. They're going to go undefeated. Actually, I had them going 12-1, the only game being this game. I picked them to lose this game in the preseason. But I'm like, they're going to beat Alabama, they're going to win the SEC West. Then they lose to Arkansas and Mississippi State, and I'm like, oh, well, throw that out the window. But then they beat Alabama. I was right all along about them beating Alabama. Then they kill Missouri, they kill South Carolina, and they kill Auburn in back-to-back weeks, and they're looking like a really good team. Really good team they're looking like. And they've got a really good recruiting class coming in. This could be just the beginning for Texas A&M. But they got a tough opponent on the road against Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss has that high-powered offense of Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss, they start off really hot. Lost to Alabama. It's all right. Bunch of teams lose to Alabama. Won that 52-51 thriller against Arkansas. Close game against Tennessee. Everyone knows all about that game. Then they lost to Auburn, but they got back on track against Liberty. I'm going to kind of go a little quickly at this game. A&M's looked like the better team, and their defense is legit. I think their defense is going to be... Now, their offense... Here's the thing. Here's what I like about A&M. They can win you a game 41-38, like they did against Alabama. They could also win a close defensive game. That game against Auburn was 3-3 at halftime, and I think it was like 9-3 in the fourth quarter, and they were able to pull away. They could win a game either way. They are not limited to only winning via their offense or only winning via their defense. They can run the ball. They can control the clock. They can keep the ball out of Ole Miss's hands. And I think Ole Miss's defense is going to be... It's going to be tough to score on A&M's defense. I like what A&M's, but A&M's looked like the better team as of late. I'm going to take them on the road. This is going to be a really good game, though. I do think Ole Miss can... this is going to be a really good game. I'm excited. Oklahoma and Baylor. Now, for the longest time, I said Baylor's going to win. Oklahoma, okay? Oklahoma, they don't have a current ranked win, I don't think. Let me fact check that real quick. I don't think they have a win over a team that's currently ranked. Let me fact check that real quick. Yeah, no, they don't have a win over a team. Texas was ranked when they played them. They're not ranked now. They're 4-5. Texas hasn't won since they played Oklahoma, and Oklahoma hasn't lost since they played Texas. That game really shifted the whole landscape. But their last three opponents are a combined, hold on, they're a combined 24-3. Baylor, Iowa State, 23-4. Their last three opponents are 23-4. Actually, no. Hold on, I'm tripping. Hold on. 21-6. Their last three opponents are 21-6. I did a bunch of bad math there. I'm sorry. I didn't look at the records correctly. But needless to say, they haven't played a team even nearly as good as the teams they're about to play. Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma, all in back-to-back-to-back weeks. I don't think Oklahoma's winning all three of those games. Now, Baylor, they're coming off a rough loss to TCU. But here's the thing. Honestly, this game is all that matters to Baylor. They could care less about the rest of their season. They're going to try to beat Oklahoma at home. Remember last time they played? They were up 28-3, and they blew it. That was a heartbreaking game. That was awful. That was just awful. But I think Baylor's out for revenge, and this Oklahoma team is not even near as good as that team with Jalen Hurts when they played Baylor. And Baylor, they're still pretty good. They're still ranked 13th in the country. At home, kind of a trap game for Oklahoma. They might be looking ahead to Oklahoma State or Iowa State or some bigger things. I like Baylor at home. This is by far the best team Oklahoma's played. Will they come prepared? Who knows? I say no. I say Baylor stuns them at home. I'm telling you, I am waiting to drop Oklahoma to the pits of tartar. I mean, if they lose, they're not coming back in the top 10 unless they beat Oklahoma State. When Oklahoma loses, they are dropping, and dropping fast. I'm telling you, this is the worst Oklahoma team. This is definitely the worst Oklahoma team since Baker Mayfield. That's for sure. People are tired of the same song and dance from Oklahoma. People are tired of watching them win the Big 12 with a bad loss. They usually have a bad loss, and I think it's going to be coming this week to Baylor. People are tired of watching them sleepwalk through the Big 12 and then getting just their asses kicked in the playoff. People are tired of it, and the committee is starting to take notice. They're not impressed with Oklahoma. No one is. No one's impressed with Oklahoma. These next three games, I bet you they lose two. I bet you lose to Baylor and Oklahoma State. They might beat Iowa State. That game is at home. But Baylor and Oklahoma State on the road, I bet you they lose both those games. Oklahoma is not an impressive team by any stretch of the imagination. I think Baylor's going to beat them. Prove me wrong, Oklahoma. I mean, prove me wrong. If you win, I'll give you your credit. But I think they're gonna lose. My God, how long? 30 minutes. Jeez, this video's way too long. Sorry, this video's so long. But anyway, I'll see you guys next time. NFL picks will be coming tomorrow. I'm sorry I kind of stopped those. I haven't really been enjoying the NFL. But you guys if you guys want NFL picks back, I'll bring NFL picks back. They're coming tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then.